You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back here for Volatility Views one final time for our broadcast week for all of you on-demand folks. Of course, the journey continues later on the Options Oddities side for all you pro folks out there. But, of course, VolViews, the premier program for volatility traders. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the optionsinsider.com. A lot of great content there throughout the week. You can get, of course, a lot of great earnings volatility data. If you want all that data in your hot little hands completely for free, because we like you folks, that's the place to go. Click on that Options News and Articles tab to begin your voyage to the dark side. Of course, links to all your favorite shows. They're going all the way back to the primordial ooze days of 2007, January 2007. If you want to hear some rough early content back before most people knew what the hell a podcast was, go check out some of that stuff. It's fun stuff as we were. Mostly me, I was still finding my way through through a lot of this fun stuff. And then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to get more fun stuff in your life. Like, let's say, for example, you want to keep the party rolling. You want to join us for the party after VolViews today. Join us on Options Oddities. You want to get the pro Q&As. Had another awesome one this week with actually the greasiest of meatballs. He sat in, took down a bunch of VIX questions this week. We had a whole bunch of VIX talk on the pro Q&A. So if you want to go deeper into all the topics we don't really have time to spend a full hour on these shows, pro Q&A, the place to go, as well as, of course, live access to this, everything else we do, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn all about that fun. As we learn who's joining us here heading into this Labor Day holiday, everyone's out there traveling hither and yon. Everyone has already left the markets. They've abandoned you all, except myself and, of course, one other. He is the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the show, sir.
Well, you know, it is a Friday, so Sebastian's out. He's doing Option Pit stuff. He's playing CEO today, so I had to spell him a little bit while he put on his big boy hat.
You and I don't leave the people hanging. We give them their VolViews, come hell or high water, or indeed long 3-day holiday weekend that everyone just abandons the market for. Looks like they're abandoning some vol today as well, so let's get to it. A little bit of the old volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Volatility Review, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down the week that was, and indeed still is, from vol trading and trending and analysis and unusual activity, all sorts of fun perspectives. And I kind of let the cat out of the bag there. Man, they are coming for this vol. We are, of course, heading into the long weekend. Markets right now still struggling to find their footing on the broad index level. Had the jobs report this morning. Some people liking this. People calling it a near perfect jobs report. Some people thinking maybe this is going to be the ammo the Fed needs to at least pause the rate hikes for a little bit. But we did see the S&P begin its downward trajectory earlier this morning, get to about 4,500, pretty close to it, and then kind of bounce from there. So now we are back up ever so slightly, a little over two handles kicking off the show, right around 45.10, up about 0.6%, somewhere along those lines. The NASDAQ still in red territory, off about 0.1%, and the Dow up about 0.15%. So, again, kind of a mixed bag to start the session here. Looks like maybe we are a little bit in that bouncing, maybe whipsaw land. We shall see. A lot of session left ahead of us here, listeners. But that means coming into the start of the show, man, they have come for this vol. Spoiler alert, I don't think any of us had a 13. I will go check really quickly, but I don't think any of us had. No, there were no 13 handles on our crystal ball. If this keeps up, you might need a 12 handle by the end of the day. My goodness. This is serious business, listeners. 13.15 when we kicked off the show in VIX land. Yes, 13.15. Down about exactly 3 points. We were at a 16.15 this time on the show, kicking it off last week. So they have just annihilated all volatility from this market. You know, it's interesting. I've been saying for a while here, we're in the dog days of summer, and yet it doesn't seem like it from a vol perspective or a volume perspective. It seems like the dog days of summer all caught up to us just in the last couple of sessions. And they came and they took all of the air out of this balloon. 13.15 right now. Vol VVIX 82, down another 7 points from last week. Of course, you go back to the Jackson Hole period, and it was triple digits, if not a little bit north of that. So we're down pretty much 20 handles in vol from the Jackson Hole period. So they're really pricing in, right now at least, nothing. Whole lot of nothing going on. And VOLQ, the at-the-money vol of the NASDAQ, 16 3/4, down 3 1/4 points. You know, we were just joking on another show recently. You know, when VIX hit 12, we got a little nervous. Then we immediately bounced away from it. And it seemed like all was right with the world again for a little bit. Now we are threatening it. We'll be interested to see if we can close or hit a 12 handle. We're pretty close to it right now before the end of the show. So a lot to unpack. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. Quite the vol drubbing this week, sir. What do you make of it?
Well, I believe I was supposed to tell you. Let me see. Mr. Sebastian.
Is he going on about his puts? Is he going on about his puts? Yes.
Some 13.5 puts for 6 cents, 5 cents. He even got some for 4 cents, the dog. I had like a 3 cent bid in, and I didn't get filled. The VIX SEP 13.5s. And I think they're trading 35 cents. And I believe I heard you couldn't pull the trigger on those.
Yeah, we were joking about it during the show, and so I started working some offers on those, or bids, I should say, during the show. And then, you know, as things happen, we had another show after that. Things happened in between. So yeah, the market, already by the time we were talking about them on the show, VIX was starting to drop then. So they moved away from my offers pretty quick. I could have just lifted the offer when I went out there. But you know me, that's not me. I like to work myself. And so if I had lifted the offer, it would have been nice. And yeah, I was working him on the 13.5 puts. And I believe the 15 puts. Those are looking pretty juicy as well. So yeah.
I think that one trade helped our students pay for like their whole year of the services. So he just told me to remind you, I guess, how awesome he is.
Thank you for that one. Yes. You know, I had him in my hands.
I could say I myself am awesome, but you know, I don't think just calling myself awesome really is. I don't think that counts.
In my defense, I think I'm the one who turned him on to the really, really crappy puts, because we were joking about him when someone bought 100,000 of them back in, what was it, June? But it was the end of last year, remember? So we started joking. So we bought him first on this show as kind of just a fun lark. And I think that inspired him. That was a fantastic trade. I think that was better than this one. That was like an 8 to 10xer.
Well, okay. Yeah. But we're, telling the listeners about something that happened last year.
We took him off. Took him off for June.
They don't care.
Took him off for June.
Like,
it wasn't that long ago.
For me now.
I'm just saying. I think that was the catalyst that got him suddenly exploring the far reaches of out of the money puts in VIX land to see what he could find.
Well, I mean, the best thing about VIX is just it is a unique product, like in every sense of the word. But opportunity, when vol moves, it just, the whole thing becomes a different product. It's very fun. But you have to have the patience of Methuselah in order. And then you have like this week was like my best week all summer by far. Mostly just holding on to all the VIX puts that I had. Like, okay, well, this, anyway. But I was 5-to-1 levered call to put. So one call for every 5 puts. So I figured it either goes horribly wrong or the vol slides to 13. So I closed almost everything yesterday. But anyways, from a vol point of view, we have erased the Fitch downgrade. We have erased the bank downgrades. We have erased every single bad piece of news in the equity market. If you look at VIX as an indicator, it's all gone. There's nothing bad is ever going to happen again. Apple's back up to almost $190. The Qs are back up almost 380 again. S&P 500 is 4,500 again. That 4,300 a couple of weeks ago, nothing. That's all bad. So
it's not back up. Oatly. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself for the next show. But we'll save that.
That's another show.
We'll save that for later.
I guess I don't want to be although the oat milk, I have been seeing it in the wild. It was even in my refrigerator at one point. We had some.
There you go.
Some oat person
supporting the cause. I may have
it's summertime.
I may have some in my fridge as well. Yes, supporting the cause.
So from a vol point of view, I guess just overview wise, when you're a market maker, you're telling the listeners like where vol is a reflection of sentiment. And, when you have 30-day vol, now we have a 3-day weekend, so VIX is being reduced, it'll probably mark back up to 313, maybe 70 or something on, I don't know the exact number right now. I'm actually doing that with one of my students who's a professor at a big university. We're trying to do some weekend effect calculations and stuff, but that's another show. But anyway, but like as far as like, how low VIX is and how high the futures are, like the October futures, like $16. So if you're looking at the vol products, like the percentage of future premium versus where VIX is, like how much those futures can drop is now relatively large again for the vol products. So when we get to VXX, we'll talk about it. But in VIX futures, like, you're not paying a whole lot for the 16 or 17 put in VIX in October. You're paying nothing for like 13 or 14 puts in October in VIX either. Like the 13 puts are 18 cents, although the 13 puts in SEP, 13 and a half puts were 6 cents on Monday. Now, VIX is also 3 points lower than where it was on Monday, or at least 2 solid points lower. The 14s are 15 cents. Like the 15 puts are $1. I mean, and the 15 puts are $1 in the money, versus intrinsic value. So they have not pressed the vol up in VIX at all. Like VVIX is, very close to the bottom of the range. So, unbelievable opportunity in VIX options right now. Not maybe how people would expect, but I added some more strangles this week in October. I'm trying to even close my SEP, but like the September strangles paid hugely. So, and I even juiced those by buying puts 2-to-1. Like the original September strangles, you could buy the 20-30 call spread when the market was kind of going nuts was $1.20, and you could buy 2 of the 16 puts for 65 cents a piece. So that strangle was costing you $2.50, which is $2.50 and lower for those strangles is kind of my magic number. And you know, those the 16 puts are trading almost $2 right now. So those paid huge. So where I'm actually going to end up with the calls for massive credit for the next 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens. You know, the market can go down, but as of right now, VIX is saying not today. Not today.
VIX is saying I'm going to
very
bed.
Interesting opportunities abound if you know how to stand on your head and look at the VIX futures.
VIX is saying I'm going to bed for the weekend. Wake me up in a couple of weeks when something might happen. Speaking of the futures, let's get out there, Mr. Rock Lobster, because you bring up an interesting point. They have come for VIX. They have come for the futures as well. Still a chasm between the cash and certainly the October future going out two cycles. The SEP future racing headlong towards the cash right now. Both of them just getting annihilated this week. The SEP future down almost 3 points when we kicked off the show, listeners. 2.9 points. I'm hard-pressed to think of the last time we saw the futures get whacked that hard. It's been a while. And even the OCC future coming in a little over 2 points, about 2.3 points. So intriguing. We were talking on the show last week about how if you go out to that end of Q1, beginning of Q2 time frame, so you're getting into like the March, April time frame, you still had a 20 handle out there. And obviously they have come for the front portion of the curve, and they have knocked the full curve down a wee bit as well. But interestingly enough, if you go now even to, you have to go all the way out to May now to find a 20 handle, but it's still there. So what that means, listeners, now is we have the front portion of the curve that just got annihilated. And you go out to more now beginning of Q2 of next year, you get into that April, May timeframe, and then you start seeing a 20 handle pop out there. So you have just a ridiculous contango here, nice slope in these futures. So a lot to unpack. The front portion of the curve, I guess that would be the business portion, according to the old Thompson twins. That part's pricing in a whole heck of a lot of nothing right now. And then you go out to beginning of next year, and all of a sudden you get all that party being priced in. Mr. Rock Lobster, what do you make of the aggressive annihilation of the front portion of the curve this week, and the fact that you can still find a 20 handle if you go out to early next year, sir? Quite the slope this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at how I look at vol. It's as steep as it's been all year. I think we probably had a little bit more, but man, it's like the way I look at vol again from just. All I do is look at what the forward vols have been historically as VIX crashes, right? And, you know, kind of how the market's pricing things, basically. And right now it's definitely pricing, you know, again, I think it has a lot to do with we have the 3-day weekend, most of it, because VIX probably should be about 50 cents higher than it is right now. But, you know, they're taking it down. Like 9-day vol is 10%, like 11, right? Reduce for the holiday. So the future wise are pretty expensive. The October's still around 16. The Nova's around 17. So again, a lot of opportunity, and anything that owns the VIX futures, if we have a meandering couple of weeks, you know, all those, like a lot of that future juice is really going to come out. Like, so, you know, you could lose like $1 out of the futures in a week or two, just pure decay. And that, you know, as a percentage of the vol products and VIX, that's a kind of a big number, right? So those vol puts can pay. I mean, anyway, so that's what I've been telling my students, you know, now SPX can go down too. So your ratio right now to buy index puts and buy VIX puts is like the stellar. Like this is the one you want to do that trade as much as possible, I think. But of course, that's just my opinion. You still have to know how to manage it. But from a price point of view, it's pretty good. So with the curve this aggressively sloping down, because there's not a 20 handle for, let's see, like you said, what is it, out to March? Because I'm only looking at it out to Feb, but it's quite a ways till you get to the 20 handle again. So
Yeah, it's 1970 in April when we kicked off the show, and May was like a little bit over 20, about 20 in an 8.
Yeah,
so.
that's as low as it's been. I'll bet you, Mark, that's probably the lowest long-term future number we have had in 3 years.
In a while, yeah.
we need Dr. VIX. That's why I love having him on, because you just slap him with those statistic questions and he comes up with an answer. He's like the VIX machine, like, okay, Russell, when was the last time? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, in 2021, and he comes up with an answer. So, you'll, at this point, you'll have to do with me, but I would be hard pressed to think that the whole future complex has not been this low. So what I think it says a couple of things. One, I don't think the market thinks rates are going lower, although I know Tucson and I might be in slight agreement on this, but I don't think the Fed is going to lower until the U.S. government stops spending, because clearly they are not connected to reality in any way, shape, or form, apparently. But I don't think they're going to, at least from the way Vol is looking at it, I don't think they're going to be raising aggressively either anymore. So, and I think that's what the Vol curve says. If that long-term expectation comes down, it's because people are looking at the tea leaves. Remember, there's hundreds of thousands of traders, like basically divining information and looking at how much they want to pay for index volatility. And if they don't want to pay up for it anymore, I think kind of it seems we would be closer to the end of the vol cycle. Now the Fed could surprise, but at least for right now, if I'm interpreting the VIX futures tea leaves, that's what I'm saying. That the rate hikes are going to slow or be done. If Uncle Sam actually comes up with some kind of what we'll just call a reasonable spending, which we know how difficult that is. Things could, kind of get back to where they were before 2020. So you can't discount that possibility, because remember the whole COVID thing when we came, like the government kind of created the mess, so to speak, by throwing everybody at work, and they're going to put everybody back in work. Then they spent a ton of money. Then they had the mandates. So they created a lot of dislocation. And now they're just basically undid it. I think, it was kind of like a fire drill. They didn't really go anywhere, but spent a ton of money and created a massive dislocation. So as the equity market looks at that, and the vol futures look at that, that's what they look at. They said, okay, well, there's just not a lot out there in the long term. This could all change, this weekend or whatever. But as of right now, they're marking all of that rate hike stuff is, I'd say it's pretty, it's almost kind of like back to normal, which I hate saying that, because as soon as I say it, I almost want to take those words, because almost every time we've done this show.
Now that you said that,
we wait a week and something.
They're going full point next time. Here we go. Take this, Rock Lobster, back to normal. Here we come. Powell heard that and he's angry. Yeah, it's interesting. While you were talking, I was just digging around to see if I could get the numbers in my hot little hands from our friends over there at OCC for August, because, of course, we are recording this on the 1st, listeners, so they should be in my hot little hands right now for not just the overall options market, but overall VIX futures as well. Remember, they cleared VIX futures there. And unfortunately, Mr. Rock Lobster, like I said, you and I are the only ones working today, because those folks at the big industry utility at OCC, they're not working today. They took the long weekend off. So no VIX futures numbers for us on the show. We'll get them, I guess, on Tuesday, actually. So we'll have them in our hands for next week's show to see how VIX futures held up over the past month. But let's keep rolling on out to the land of VIX options. And right now, given the fact that we're heading into a long weekend, kind of at the tail end of summer here, the dog days of summer here, you'd expect 150,000 contracts on the tape right now, maybe if that. So the fact that we're even threatening 400K right now, 385,000 contracts on the tape, it's actually reasonably impressive. The ADV right now, 727, that's hanging out about where it was, down 2,000. That in and of itself also fairly impressive for the tail end of August here. This is usually the time of year when not a heck of a lot going on. Vol is pretty anemic. Like we said, Vol just caught up to where it normally is this time of year. But the volume is also usually pretty anemic this time of year. It's not usually threatening 750,000 contracts a day in VIX land. But that's where we are right now. So a very different, somewhat aberrant August, and just a different summer. I mean, look at the numbers we were talking about with Henry on the option block yesterday, and just how dense the options market has been from a volume perspective this entire year. Let's get out to the size positions. What's open for size? What's kind of dominating the tape out there right now in VIX land? Let's find out together, listeners, shall we? Cost you 224,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX. Again, that just kind of shows the density of the options market and of VIX itself right now. Usually that number is around $160, maybe $170, $180 if things are really getting kind of heavy out there. 224 in August? That's nothing to sneeze at. That shows a lot of paper still flying fast and furious out there in VIX land. That gets you to the SEP 35s. Number 9, 226,000 of the SEP 20s. By the way, we are still hanging out right around 8-2 calls over puts in the top 10. That doesn't seem to want to change anytime soon. Number 8, 227,000 of the October 20s. Number 7, our first of 2 puts in the top 10 this week, 239,000 of the September 13 puts. Oh, our old friends, we were just talking about those. Or were those the 13 halves? I forgot. But either way, probably some smiley faces on those if they're long those. And if past is prologue, they probably were. Not a lot of size put sellers in VIX out there like there are in the S&P. Number 6, 239,000 of the D's 35. So now we're going out of ways, listeners. D's 35. So if the SEP 35 is not doing it for you right now, and let's face it, probably not going to threaten that strike unless something Andrew has said today has angered the vol gods. But outside of that, maybe D's 35s got a little bit better shot. 239,000 of those open for number 6. Number 5, 241,000 of the SEP 24s. Number 4, 242,000 of the SEP 23s. Number 3, 256,000 of the November 47 halves. Again, I love these. They've been hanging out for a while. I find this fascinating, that strike. Number 2, 264,000 of the SEP 60s. You know the story there. Part of that 1x3. And then the top position right now in VIX options land, 350,000 of the SEP 15 puts. So, yeah, those are probably looking pretty good as well. I have a feeling those will probably be lighter this time next week. Folks probably taking them off the table between now and next week's show. They're probably waiting until the very last moment to see if they can get max juice for those today. But speaking of today, let's go out and see what's going on today. Like I said, a fair amount of paper out there today. 385,000 contracts on the tape. Oh, and surprise, surprise, the number one trade today, the most active contract, 23,500 of the SEP 15 puts. So some folks are starting to get the heck out of Dodge on those, it seems like. So probably not surprising. We'll probably see a lighter number there this time next week. If they're still holding them, then you got to kind of wonder what's going on out there. Number 2, we got 21,000 of the other half, the SEP 15 calls. Number 3, 20,000 of the D's 20s, so going all the way out to D's. So if SEP 20s not going to make it for you listeners, how about the D's 20s? You like those instead? Number 4, 19,000 of the SEP 16 calls, and rounding out the top 5 on a surprisingly active Friday heading into Labor Day weekend, 16,000 of the September 13 half puts. Yesterday, quite the banger day there yesterday, listeners. 829,000 contracts on the tape. The big dogs yesterday, looks like it was a vertical, was the D's 2532 vertical, going up 143,000 times on the 25s and 140,000. So it looks like a slight ratio, not much. 140,000 on the D's 32. So interesting. You like that vertical instead, perhaps, listeners? D's 2532. Let's just pull them up here. So, they didn't go up as spread. They went up at the exact same time, though. So unless it's the old funky stupid, it does appear to have been, they went up as a call spread 127,000 times. So massive call spread out there yesterday. Then it falls off a cliff for number 3. Again, that just shows how prone to just outsized trades VIX can be. It can be a quiet day, and then bam, a call spread goes up 127,000 times, and it completely changes the game. That's what VIX can do that a lot of other products can't. 33,000 for number 3 of the SEP 14 half puts. Number 4, 29,000 of the SEP 15 puts. And round out the top 5. Oh, you got some calls here. 26,000 of the Jan 28s going up yesterday. Interesting strike and month. That vertical also kind of interesting out. You like that? 2532 listeners in December. Would you rather buy that or sell that right now? Wednesday, still a pretty active day, 557,000 contracts. No massive 127,000 lot verticals going up to gin up the numbers on Wednesday. The big dog, though, still respectable, 54,000 of the SEP 16 calls. Followed by number 2, about 38,000 of the SEP 15 puts. Number 3, 20,000 of the DEES 35. So a lot of people making their way out to DEES this week. That's kind of interesting. Number 4, 20,000 of the SEP 19 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on Wednesday, 20,000 of the DEES 40. So here we go again. Maybe that was a DEES 35-40 on Wednesday as well. Tuesday, similar paper, 585,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog, 60,000, pretty much exactly, 60,006 to be precise, of the Jan 45. So once again, seeing some interesting Jan making its way onto the list as well. Number 2, 45,000 of the DEES, 45,000 of the October 47 halves. Those appear to be closing. Oh, by the way, that vertical in DEES was opening, just to remind you out there. So new opening paper there. It looks like closing on the October 47 halves. So I guess they're giving up the ghost on those. Number 3, 40,000 of the DEES 35s. Number 4, 27,000 of the SEP 15 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on a decently active Tuesday, 24,000 of the October 45s. So maybe a bit of a losing roll, closing 45,000 of the 47 halves and maybe opening 24,000 of the 45s. That'd be a strange roll if that was the case, but that's the paper we had going up on Tuesday. Monday, kind of the paper you'd expect, 444,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog on Monday, 52,000 of the SEP 17s. Number 2, 37,000 of the October 19s. Number 3, 30,000 of the October 18 puts. Number 4, 30,000 as well of the OC 18 calls. Interesting. Straddle, bit of a synthetic going up here on Monday. And then SEP 17 puts going up for number 5, 27,000 of those. Let's pull up the Monday numbers really quickly as well to see if we can see what they were up to out there on the OC 18 strike, listeners. Yeah, I'll have to dig in a little more, but it did go up together as a spread 12,400 times. The first time they obviously did more. Intriguing stuff. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on the paper we're seeing this week? Surprising amount of volume heading into the long weekend. A lot of pop yesterday, including your thoughts on that DEES 25-32 vertical. Do you know which way they put it on, and are you a fan of it? And then what are your thoughts on anything else you saw this week, including maybe what looks like some funky OC 18 paper going up on Monday?
Of course, Monday was our put buying day. I would also like looking at, I think now that as vol's going lower, you would see like the Amberson special buying some more, starting to buy some out of money calls. So I did see some sporadic call buying. Although I don't usually like buying it while VIX is still kind of dipping, but mostly we actually saw a lot of action in vol put. So I didn't notice a ton of call buying, but if you're one of those people that are looking for, call buying opportunities, you could buy calls and buy in the money puts in VIX right now, and you can get insane leverage. So, I think personally, it's the best time to trade the product right where it is. But I didn't notice a whole lot of call action this week. Like I said, we did notice a lot of action around September and some October, but there isn't a huge amount of open interest in really any of those strikes. I mean, I guess the 13s now are picking up and the 15s have picked up quite a bit, but put wise, but I haven't seen like a ton. Like in September, the biggest OI from the 30 strike down is in the 15 puts. So anyway, that's just an observation for us, but that's, at least how I'm looking at vol right now, at least volume wise. Mostly in puts, we haven't really seen I haven't seen a lot of those big call numbers go up yet.
You like that DEES vertical, 25-32, sir?
The problem with verticals that tight, I mean, they're cheap, which is good, but it just, they don't provide a lot of fun, as far as performance goes. So like if you buy something like that, there's so little gamma in it when you sell that upside. I mean, they can, but I prefer like wider, use more of the upside skew in VIX and have like 10, 15, 20 point wide call spreads out there, because I think you get a little better like risk reward style. So, I mean, those spreads look interesting because they don't cost a lot of money, but and to get real performance out of them, you need to have things really move. So it's not my favorite thing to do, but I don't think it's a terrible trade. I'm just looking at the pricing on it right now. 25.32 is so 80. So it's 50 cents and it has 10 deltas. So if you got a real 5-point move and then with vol going up, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to double your money on. But it could. It just takes a little while. That's why I prefer like the wider spreads. But you even think about it, like if you go about looking at December pricing, the fact that the D25 call is only $1.30. I mean, from a dollar point of view, it's not a very expensive spread. And I noticed there's about 150,000 plus open on the strike. So, I mean, somebody I think is trying to buy some cheap stuff, but a lot of the VIX trade out there is just being long the Vega when the vol gets this low. So once you buy the spread, you kind of kill a lot of the action on the trade, because that 32 call, the vol blows up in there relatively hard. So you get some performance. It's just I don't think whoever bought that spread, even though they bought 100 and something thousand of them, I don't think they totally understand how the performance on the upside works. But it doesn't mean it doesn't make money. It's just like, how explosive do you want it to be? So
that's a good way. That's
what I would say.
That's a good way to describe it. It doesn't have a lot of fun. It doesn't have a lot of excitement to it. You're right. Because I can't get excited for these things either. By the way, I was looking at the numbers now. I was spitting out something. I didn't think that sounded right. 218 and 48 cents for those. That sounded kind of strange. I think that was showing me the market for the spread, which is an atrocity in and of itself. The actual prices went up. You're right, closer to what you were saying. $1.33 for the D's 25s and 85 cents for the D's 32. So they did it for around 48 cents, listeners. So if that makes you like it more or less, listeners, I just wanted to put out the actual numbers for you there.
Yeah, but it could double. It could double if we got like, you would need a run to like at least cash has to go to 20. I think it would double. So, I mean, it can get you something. But, you like buying those junky VIX calls for $1.25 and they go to like to $6. That's the woo.
Or the 13.5 puts and they do a 7Xer. That's fun. That's sexy.
We're paying 6 cents and some of our students are selling them for 35 cents. So it's hard. You can be bold buying 100 puts for 6 cents. 200 puts for 6 cents.
Big swing in size when you get to those GP puts. Yeah. I'm looking at some of our chat. Looks like some of them are complaining. Like Option God, he missed those VIX 13.5 and VIX 15 puts as well. Yeah, it was easy to do unless you kind of lifted the offer immediately when we were talking about them, listeners, on the show on Friday. They kind of moved away pretty quickly. I think after the show, I actually adjusted myself up, and they still just ran away from it. So you kind of really had to scoop them the second we were talking about them. Otherwise, they were kind of off to the races from there. And even by them, let's say Monday, you were paying a lot more for those things than we were talking about them on Friday. So yeah, it was interesting. It was a brief moment in time, but unless you kind of chased them or just lifted the offers, which I know, it's the old market maker in me, Mr. Rock Lobster. I just can't. I know, it's hard. I can't lift offers sometimes. Yeah, just can't. It's beaten into me, sir. I can't do it. I have to go. Maybe I have to slowly work that out of myself. But I have had puts go to die a few times as well, so that's also probably beaten some of that chasing of VIX. But I don't need to chase VIX puts, I find that road lies madness sometimes. So intriguing stuff out there. Let's keep on rolling. Let's go out some of the products you may have wanted to chase this week, listeners. SVIX, my goodness. I think once in future, Dr. VIX will be sad that he has overwritten most of his stuff now, because it is hanging out right now at yet another new all-time high for this product, 3170. It hit 3176 a few minutes ago. That's a new all-time high, up, get this, 4.5 freaking points from this time last week. Of course, it makes sense. If VIX is off about 3, you're going to see a nice pop in SVIX. But still, these levels, I mean, we were just joking about the SEP 35s, and those are now quite reasonably in play. My goodness, those are the near at-the-money strike in SVIX. This thing is off to the races, and still, with all this movement, listeners, nobody can be bothered to get out of bed and actually sling some contracts out here. There's only 900 contracts on the tape today. The ADV is actually going back down. It's down to 2,300, down another 1,000. Or actually, down another 100. Down another 1,000 would be apocalyptic in this product. But yeah, for some reason, even on a week like this, I mean, obviously it's dog days of summer, so you expect some of that. But a week like this, you'd expect some action out here. It's one of these big catch-22s that this product, a lot of new products are caught in. They won't do more volume because people won't come in because the spreads are too wide. But the spreads won't tighten up until we get more volume. So it's this vicious cycle that all these new products are caught in. Spreads won't tighten up until we get more volume, but people won't do more volume until the spreads tighten up. So we're kind of left in this limbo. I think they should just bite the bullet and just launch some weeklies on it. I know the spreads will be crazy at first, but man, imagine how much the weeklies would add to this, and that would certainly accrete to the whole thing. And next thing you know, we're doing 10,000 contracts a day and more. I'm sure SIBO would love that as well, because that all translates back into VIX futures at the end of the day, which was the reason they were so excited to get this thing back off the ground again. So yeah, it's just it's a fascinating beast out here. The top positions right now in SVIX. You know what one of them is, and they're smiling right now. Number one is 2,300 of the SEP 10s, the SEP 10 puts. Number two, right on the other side of the spectrum, 2,200 of the SEP 35s. I'm going to wait to see when they take those off. I have to go back and see what they put those on for now. It's been a while, but we were joking about those a while ago. But yes, and then number three, we have 1,500 of the DEES 10 puts out there. So people like those 10 strikes. Let me pull it up here really quickly and see when they opened up those SEP 35s. That was back in March, listeners. They bought 1,000 of them for, looks like it was the prices around 20 cents. Let's see. 15 cents they paid for those bad boys. So, and obviously they did more. They did more recently. They did more in August 7th. They bought more for like 30. Oh, no. Looks like, yeah, 30 cents is they got up to on some of these. So interesting stuff here. Yeah, interesting stuff on these SEP 35s. And then number three, 1,500 of the DEES 10 puts. Mr. Rock Lobster, your thoughts on everyone's favorite SVIX just setting new records almost every day, and yet no one can be bothered to trade the options, sir?
Yeah, I closed some. I trade SVXY the other day, and I closed some calls. I bought a strangle and thing that flew, and I ended up selling the calls for what I paid for the strangle. So I'm like, because there's no way like the vol really, how is this gonna hold up or whatever. I like, again, these products are fun. Vol and all these products is super low, man. I mean, this is what happens in the market. Everybody gets real giddy. And implied vol in these products just go to nothing. So if you're looking at it, that's what I find, very interesting. You kind of, again, you have to understand how the vol products work, but when the vol gets this low and the contango is as high as it is, you don't get opportunities like this very often. So, you're getting 1-year lows implied vol in SVIX. You have massive contango, and because that just destroys the futures, and it's great for SVIX, great for SVXY, bad for UVXY, UVIX, and the VXX. But you get you get the upside potential for almost nothing, or market downside potential for it's a very it's a cool thing. You just got to be patient, So I think there's super opportunity in here. I was probably a little hasty selling my calls. Well, it's easy to say that, when the vol goes to zero. But I also can't lose either, which is a good spot to be in. But as far as like vol going down here, very like I can see why people are interested, but you have to be patient with these. You do get filled mid market, and the good thing about the vol products is you're really not getting out until everybody's screaming bloody murder from the rooftops, and then I'm okay. I don't care about giving them 15 or 20 cents to get out if something's moved like $4 or $5. So it's an old trading adage I learned a long time ago. You can't always pick how you want to exit. You just have to make sure that you do. So very interesting pricing, I'll say, all in the whole thing. So I have a pretty fair amount of strangles. I didn't want to go like all in this week because we had a 3-day weekend, but I bought enough. I think I'm happy for right now. But we'll see what happens. But like as of right now, with VIX this low, generally we just kind of crawl along the bottom here of vol until something makes VIX pop again. But with that's why these products are interesting at this level. But I'll save that. You have to sign up for all my products to learn how to trade them. We're not giving away all the secrets here on the show.
Well, let's keep rolling here because we're actually coming up against it. You and I have been chatting about vol quite a bit already, sir. Show flies when it's just me and the Rock Lobster talking vol here. We'll kind of skip over UVIX and UVXY because not a hell of a lot going on. UVIX at a 2-handle now, listeners. 290 down 1.2 points. They're just letting that thing go to zero, apparently. Wake me up again on that one when they come out with a reverse split. 7,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV is 15,000, so nothing going on out there. UVXY, same deal, down 3 3/4 points this week at a 14 handle. Yes, they just reverse split it not too long ago. It's going to be back at a 10 handle. It keeps up this pace, which would be hard to do, listeners, admittedly. It'd be at a 10 handle by our show next week, in which case they'll be talking reverse split again. 66,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV right now, 148,000. So things pretty light out there. Our top position, that's all pre-split adjusted nonsense in UVXY. So not even worth talking about. Let's get on out to a product I know the meatball's into. I'm not sure if you're into as much yet, Mr. Rock Lobster. It's VXX, 21 even right now. Down a little over 3, about 3.5 points on the week. Paper starting to pick up a little bit out there. 54,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV is 84,000. That's still a long way to go from what it used to be, the 300,000-400,000 level. But impressive. It's hanging out unched right now. The big dog position out there in VXX right now, 32,000 of the SEP 20 puts and 22,000 of the SEP 22 puts and 15,000 of the SEP 23 puts. So pretty much a nice little put strip there. No big surprise when it comes to VXX, and at least 2 of those right now are probably pretty happy campers. Mr. Rock Lobster, have you been lured back to the dark side of VXX, or are you still keeping your powder dry out there?
No, I actually tried to execute some puts today in there, and all my students front ran me, because they're talking about them, and I did have a chance to fill them at the price I wanted, but it touched there briefly and then popped back up again. So I got the bidders happening. So I just closed both sides of the trade, or just the SPY puts that I bought. I made a little like $5 on the SPY puts or something, literally $5, not $5 per contract. But yeah, because I was looking at the prospective decay to the October cycles, like $4. For VXX. So that could be a 17 handle in VXX by October expiration if VIX closed here. And the 20 puts were only $1 at the time, only about $1.05. So like crazy potential decay in here. So, when you can buy the strangles in there for less than a potential decay, to me, it's like a pretty huge green light to do those type of trades. So said I'll be patient. I know it's a Friday, 3-day weekend. I did want to add I want to add a little more of that position, but it did not come to pass. So I'm gonna put it down and wait until Tuesday when I will look at it again. But my guess is those puts will be expensive. So we thought the liquidity providers, like the volatility on 20 strike, was like 55% this morning, which was ridiculously low. I think they were trying to scoop it in. So as soon as all my students, we had the whole room trying to buy them, like the price just, it had that price will not be seen again, I don't think, unless the market just totally falls apart. It will never. $1.05 for the October 20 puts. No chance in VXX. So we tried. Some of my students did get them. I was a little stubborn, but that was this. So yes, I've definitely traded. Again, I don't do the long-term trade. I keep the long-term in VIX. But short-term 4 to 6 week type trades, or shorter 2 week, are fine in VXX. But I don't do the type of size or long duration stuff anymore in there, just because they did that thing to us. So they're still on my list.
It's had a couple of issues a couple of hiccups over the years.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, it's hard to bet the farm out there. But yeah, you're right. It is starting to look intriguing to me as well. You know what else is intriguing to me, listeners? It's the crystal ball. So let's get to it.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crystal ball. I kind of buried the lead at the top of the show when I said nobody had a 13 handle, and that is indeed the case. I was at a 1645, so no joy for me. Our lowest was the meatball at 1551, and obviously no joy there. Even the once and future Dr. VIX, who kept whispering in my ear during crystal ball, it's a long weekend. It's a long weekend. He was the highest of all of us at 1720. So I think he was just trying to talk me out of my prediction. But 1720 for him, so no joy there. So we're kind of all over the place. A clean slate this week, Mr. Rock Lobster. I also see an interesting debate going on in our live chat about how low can VIX go? What will the bottom be in VIX cash? So maybe we can do a fun double-sided prediction, Mr. Rock Lobster, if you like. First off, what are you feeling for vol this time next week? I'll let you go first because we all screwed the pooch royally last. We don't deserve to go first. And then B, if you have a thought about what the VIX bottom will be, have at it, sir.
For this cycle or just for the rest of the year?
Well, could be. I think they're talking about this cycle. So let's just say this cycle. Yeah. In the near term, where do you think VIX is going to
go? I think we'll see like 1225 this cycle as a low. Because we'll set a low for the year, closing low.
Might hit that today.
Yeah. It feels like it. I think it's kind of like maybe, I got 2 more hours, and they try to like drill in the last 2 hours. People try to get that last bit of juice out. I think next week, though, it wouldn't surprise me if we were like 25 cents from here, like given what's been going on. So I'm going to say like 1325 for next week. So pretty close to where we are right now.
1325 for the Rock Lobster and the Crickets. And let's see. Yeah, this is an interesting one. My crystal ball was broken. I think I sent it to the shop this week, listeners. So hopefully it's fixed this week. I don't like being 3+ handles off. It happens to the best of us sometimes. When you're guessing VIX every week, listeners, you're bound to swing and miss sometimes. My bullseye rate is actually fairly decent, all things considered. Let's see. Let's go out there next week. Yeah, I kind of am with you with the bottom. I think somewhere in a 12 handle makes sense for a bottom for VIX. I think I see someone in our chat. Oh, it's good old Mr. Nichols, who's been good before. He said he can see an 11 handle. I don't think I see that. Maybe some of that is optimism. An 11 handle, man, we're talking about a whole lot of nothing there. But a 12 handle's bad enough. I think I see a 12 handle. I could see your level, maybe 12 1/4, maybe somewhere around 12 1/2. VIX kind of running out of steam to the dark side there. All that a long way around to saying this time next week, at about a 13.15 when we came into the segment here, listeners, for VIX. I don't know if I see it. I don't even want, if I guess a 12 handle, it's kind of like I'm whispering it into fruition. So I don't know if I even want to go with a 12 handle, even though my gut is maybe telling me like a 12.75. So I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to buck the old gut a little bit. I'm going to say I'm going to say a little bit north of where we are right now. Maybe some of that is wishful thinking. 13.55. So there's your vol market for this time next week, listeners. 13.25 for the rock lobster and 13.55 for me. Maybe a little bit of hopium in there. We'll find out next week. At least I admit it to you, listeners. I admit it to you when perhaps my prognostication has a wee bit of something else of going on about it. I haven't looked. If you guys have your vol prognostications, get them in for next week here in the old chat. Of course, if you're listening after the fact, get them in before the end of the day if you too want to win fabulous, fun, exciting, compelling, educational prizes. And Mr. Rocklops, that music means we're done, but you and I aren't done. No rest for the wicked. For all you pro folks, we'll be back in a little bit to discuss a crazy week's worth of unusual activity out there. Should be some fun stuff. For all you on-demand folks, this will, of course, conclude your broadcast week with us. Thank you for joining us throughout the week. And before we go, Mr. Rocklobster, folks want to talk to you about VXX strangles or any of this other fun stuff. Where should they go? What should they do?
Well, yeah, if you want to learn how to trade VIX and SPY, just go to Money Map Press and you can take my weekly profit cycles there. Very reasonable price. We are kicking butt this year. Even though we belong SPY puts most of the time, the strategy is done quite well. So you can learn how to trade that product there, or come to Option Pit. We're doing a special on our Pro Series. So we're introducing, trading and investing the Option Pit way. So a little bit more one-on-one intention. So if you're interested in that, try 888-TRADE-01. You get 10% off if you heard it here on the show. So that would be a sizable discount on what's going on. And I will see you on Oddities in the very near future.
Yes, we will see you there. Will we see you there, listeners? Head on over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That's the place to go to get past the bouncer, to join us in the party that is Options Oddities. Remember, Labor Day, markets are closed on Monday, so no option block, no crypto rundown. But we're back here throughout the rest of the week with your usual array of content, and then back here again next Friday. See how our crystal ball predictions turn out with another episode of Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.